Could Ivan Toney be about to sign a new deal with Brentford? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is going to centre around the Brentford and England striker known as Ivan Toney, who has been attracting a lot of interest as of late. But could another twist be about to be set in this tale? The news coming out in the past 24 hours or so seemingly suggested that Brentford are seemingly confident that they can keep hold of Toney beyond the upcoming January transfer window and maybe even able to tie him down to a new contract. Now, we know that currently the Brentford striker is currently serving a ban for breaching various gambling offences that will see him serve that ban until around about the middle or towards the end of January. But of course, January brings around a January transfer window in which the media have constantly speculated during his time off the pitch that maybe we have already seen the last of Toney in a Brentford shirt, with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea heavily linked with signing him when that new transfer window does come around. Like I say though, reports in the past 24 hours are seemingly suggesting that maybe Brentford are confident that they can keep hold of him at least until the summer and will put him on a new deal that will include a release clause within that said contract. We're going to be talking all about this story. We're going to be talking about Toney. We're going to be talking about the interest that he's received from the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea. We're going to be talking about the new contract, the release clause, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, for you lot to get involved in the comment section as well, which I have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That will make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there in regards to this topic. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading. But without further ado, let's talk Ivan Toney. Let's talk this situation in regards to the 27-year-old. Look, this story comes from TalkSport, so initially, take it with a pinch of salt. TalkSport sources understand that Brentford are confident star striker Ivan Toney will sign a new contract. The Bees are adamant that they will not sell Toney in the upcoming January transfer window. And the story goes on to basically state that they're confident that they can keep him. They'll sign a new contract, but Toney may want to include a release clause in that said contract. Now, let me say first and foremost that if obviously the ban currently wasn't in place, if obviously he was found to have done nothing wrong and there was no need for such a ban to be imposed on the striker, I firmly believe Toney would have left Brentford this past summer. He's been a massive cog in that Brentford machine. He's been a major player for Brentford these past few years in helping them rise from the Championship to the Premier League, gain promotion through the playoffs. Of course, he had an unbelievable season in the Championship, that campaign. I think he scored 31 goals in 35 appearances, and I think he even got a couple more goals in the playoffs, of course, to help them really get on their way to gaining promotion. And then in his first season, in his debut season, and in Brentford's debut season in England's top flight division, I think he scored 12 goals and assisted 5 times in 33 appearances. And then last season, in the same number of appearances, scored 20 goals and assisted 4 times. So you can clearly see the improvement that he has made himself as a player, in the squad, of course. And like I say, he is 27 years of age, so he is just about on the cusp of entering his prime. These are like his prime years. So I guess the interest from the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea, it could be a sign that if he doesn't take it now, it probably won't come around again. Something along them lines, potentially. Obviously, things can change a lot in football. He's a brilliant player for Brentford. And it's not just about his goals and assists output. It's not about his goal contributions output that makes him such a great player for the Bees. It's about his overall play. He is, in my opinion, a complete striker. He's great in the air. He's a great physical and aerial presence, but he's also good technically. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's got pace. He's got power. He's got speed. He's got great build-up play, great vision, great passing of play. He's got everything in his locker to be an all-round complete striker, with the way that he can mould and fit into any play style, in my opinion. Like, you see that Brentford like to play on the counter-attack, and it's not just about him being quick. It's not just about his speed. It's not just about his pace on that counter-attack. It's about his overall physicality, his overall tenacity. He presses from the front. He can hold up play. He's got everything in his locker to be that complete striker that, in my opinion, perfectly fits in with what Brentford do, but can also fit in with the more intricate, more build-up kind of play of like an Arsenal, for example, or the quick play of like what Pochettino is trying to implement at Chelsea. So in my opinion, whichever one of these three sides, if one of these three sides are to either retain in Brentford's case or obtain in Arsenal or Chelsea's point of view, whichever side gets him or retains him, they have got one hell of a striker on their hands. Because, like I say, I think he is a perfect all-round striker who can fit into any system with every single tool that he's got within his arsenal. I'm not just saying Arsenal because they're linked with him, but within his locker, basically. Every tool that he's got within his locker would be a brilliant fit, in my opinion, for these sides. And let's face it, the one question mark we have had with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea this season has been their firepower up front. Do they have enough firepower to obtain their goals this season? Toney completely reinforces that vocal point within their attack. Toney reinforces that star power and that strike force 100% within an attacking sense. And for me, if either one of those two sides are to manage to prize him from Brentford's hands, that would be a monumental signing going forward, and could potentially, depending on obviously what they're trying to achieve this season, these two sides, could potentially tip the scales even further in their direction, whether it be through cup triumphs or maybe, in more Arsenal's case, I guess you could say, than Chelsea's, a title challenge. It could be incredible for them. It could be really incredible for either one of those two sides if they are managing to prize away Brentford's top player. For me, though, this situation is interesting in the fact that there is going to be a new contract. Now, does that new contract instantly mean that it puts to rest any speculation surrounding his future? Absolutely not. We have seen time and time again players sign new deals only for them to be sold 6 months later. The recent case, of course, is Moises Caicedo. He was subject to much heavy speculation when he was at Brighton about a year ago, just under a year ago, of course, when the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea came calling for him. Nothing happened in January. He went on to sign a new contract, but that was only to protect the investment of the club because Brighton had a gentleman's agreement to then sell him, obviously 6 months later when the summer transfer window opened, which eventually they did so, which brought about the whole Liverpool and Chelsea kind of transfer saga in regards to that tug of war with Caicedo, and it's probably happened time and time again before then. The interesting part, of course, in all of this is the talk of a release clause. Smart on Tony's part that if things don't quite work out, if he feels like he needs to jump ship now, otherwise a big opportunity will never come along. Smart on his part, I guess you could make reference to the Harry Kane situation, where even though he's currently killing it in the Bundesliga, absolutely killing it with Bayern right now, like he is toying with that league over there in Germany right now. Even though he's killing it right over there right now, if you were to ask him maybe if he had any regrets about maybe not joining Manchester City, maybe not winning a Premier League title currently, maybe not going on to maybe smash Alan Shearer's goal-scoring record in the Premier League era, he may have some regrets over that. So, and again, the main part of what that whole situation stemmed from was Tottenham had a contract in place. They weren't budging. Daniel Levy played hardball with Manchester City, and City didn't really want to play Daniel Levy's game, and that's why Daniel Levy ended up winning at Tottenham with keeping Harry Kane for as long as what he did, and not obviously selling him to a team like Manchester City. So it's smart on Tony's part that he's maybe learned from that. Of course, you can even make further reference to the fact that on the flip side of things, Jack Grealish had the same kind of thing in place with a Champions League side when he was at Aston Villa. He implemented a £100 million release clause for a Champions League side when he was at Aston Villa, which of course Manchester City went on to trigger, making him one of the most expensive, or maybe at the time the most expensive signing ever in transfer history. So he's probably looked at maybe those two in particular as maybe reference points. Kane, who didn't get his move because there was no release clause in place, and of course Grealish, who did. Obviously, Caicedo, I don't think, had a release clause, so he had to rely on the club sticking to their word. So again, there are obviously different cases, different things for different cases throughout that kind of recent history, I guess you could say. But Toney, for me, it's smart of him to introduce a release clause if this is to obviously be the case. Because obviously a new contract, if it's a long-term contract as well, it really does protect the investment of the club. They can keep him on, they can keep him against maybe his will, but then again, is it really keeping you against the will when you originally signed that new deal? It's smart on Tony's part if he is going to implement this, because Brentford could easily play hardball in this situation with any club that comes in. So as long as he does it correctly and does it well, it could be implemented well on his part and on the club. It could be completely respectful. A release clause is seemingly the more respectful sort of way to go about things recently, rather than just leave. Like I say, football fans are sometimes weird when it comes to players leaving. And like I say, with a release clause in place, it does seem the more respectful way to go than, of course, hand in a transfer request, demand to leave, or go completely AWOL and demand to leave by various unprofessional acts of like not turning up for training, not performing on match day, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's respectful on his part, I guess you could say a little bit. But it will be interesting to see what happens. Does he feel like he should see out the remainder of the season with Brentford to try and repay them for obviously his mistake? Will something therefore happen more in the summer than it will in January? Only time will tell on that. Only time will tell. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how he takes to things when he gets back from his ban. Will it take him time to build up that match fitness? I don't know if he's allowed. I think he's allowed to play behind closed door games and things of that nature, but I don't think he's allowed to play any sort of competitive game for Brentford in any way, shape or form. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of shape he's in, if he manages to hit the ground running when he does return, whether he does return straight away to that Brentford lineup, or whether there is going to be heavy transfer speculation that takes him out of the picture again for a little while longer. There's a lot of interesting things that are surrounding this Ivan Toney situation, but of course, like I say, reports in the last day or so seemingly are suggesting that potentially the England striker could be about to re-sign with Brentford, protecting Brentford's investment as a number one priority, but maybe about to introduce a new release clause that could see him move for a monumental fee, depending on if it's going to be a realistic fee or not. But either way, the speculation's only going to continue to gather momentum. The speculation's only going to continue to snowball between now and January. I cannot wait to see what happens next with Ivan Toney. I really like Ivan Toney, and I kind of wish that Liverpool was sort of in for him, but you know, doesn't seem to be the case. But at the same time, I'm very much interested to see what the future holds for Ivan Toney, what the future holds for Brentford, and whether or not this situation about a new contract, new release clause actually occurs, whether he decides that he owes it to the Brentford fans to stay on to the end of the season and maybe try and help Brentford's season in the final 6 months or so of this campaign when he does return from his ban, or whether or not he decides to jump ship instantly to an Arsenal, who you would imagine will be in the Champions League still at that point, or to a title challenging Arsenal at that point, or to, of course, a Chelsea, who will be probably challenging for the Champions League places if they are to continue on their somewhat upwards trajectory that recently they have seemingly been on. But that all remains to be seen. Only time will tell on that front. Interesting times do lie ahead for Brentford and Ivan Toney. But what do you make of this? These are, of course, just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Ivan Toney situation? Do you see him leaving Brentford in January? Do you see him signing a new deal that could see him have a monumental release clause placed within it? Do you see him staying on at Brentford until the summer and then something really transpiring in the summer of 2024? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That makes for great and interesting reading on this particular subject down below in the comment section. So would love to hear from you all down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks all so much for watching and listening. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.